Hello and welcome to Lazada Insider, featuring knowledge that makes a difference. We share trusted insights, forward-looking perspectives, and exclusive expert interviews to keep you ahead of the curve.
Hi, I'm your host, Katrina, and welcome to Lazada Insider. Don't forget to follow this channel for exclusive insights every week. COVID-19 has changed consumer priorities in many ways, and one of those is shifting towards healthier choices, whether it's lifestyle, it's food, supplements, and let's not forget about mental well-being as well. And this actually creates a very unique opportunity for businesses, and that is a topic we're going to delve into today. We have expert guest Philip joining us today from Kadence International. Philip is a research professional with 15 years of experience, having worked across Europe and Asia. Currently, he's the global head of research and strategy and heads up the regional Asian hub for Kadence. Hi, Philip. It's great to have you on Lazada Insider.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great. Before we delve into the discussion on health and wellness industry, let us know more about what your position entails as the global head of research and strategy and also managing director of Kadence Singapore.
Yeah, so that sort of dual role allows me to sort of be based here in Singapore. I used to be from the UK, but I've been here now for 10 years. So I work with a lot of kind of global clients. I work with a lot of clients that are looking to kind of expand into APAC. And we're here to really try and facilitate that sort of on the ground consulting here in Singapore and working with our partners in all of our offices that we have across Southeast Asia. And then globally, I try and kind of draw together more of the kind of key insights and trends and just like great ways of working across our other offices over kind of the US and UK as well. So really trying to tie everything together and really champion the work that market research can do.
Yeah, that certainly gives you a unique perspective, given the dual roles that you have. So let's delve into today's topic. Let's start with understanding the health and wellness industry a little bit better. Well, this industry actually covers a wide spectrum. So broadly speaking, what are the key categories falling under this industry?
Well, I think firstly, that is quite a broad term in terms of like health and wellness in general, I think. And McKinsey has done a study recently that talks about this kind of overall wellness market being sort of a $1.5 trillion market and growing 5-10% every year. And I think what we found is that the pandemic has really put a spotlight on all of this. If you were going to break it down into like little individual components, I think you've seen a big shift in terms of fitness. A lot of at-home stuff like the classic Peloton out of the US and things like that, the kind of at-home cycle, the Les Mills of the world really pushing kind of at-home fitness. I think you see a lot of kind of work in and around that to do wearables, technology. There's a lot changing in terms of sleep. Nutrition is being looked at in a different way. I think crucially, appearance as well. Like here we are kind of on a Zoom call, sort of video conference facility. So kind of like people are more mindful about certain elements. You can see yourself much more in kind of your everyday working lives now. And I think that's put a bigger spotlight on appearance. And probably the final thing is mindfulness in terms of mental well-being and how working from home, risk, uncertainty, and things like this all come together. So as an overall kind of bucket, that health and wellness really does encapsulate a lot of different elements.
Excellent. Well, being healthy is not really a new trend per se, but this pandemic has certainly reshaped consumers' attitude towards it. And a lot of people also view it through a more, I would say, sophisticated lens. So in your view, how has COVID-19 impacted consumers' attitude on health and wellness and therefore how they behave differently?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not necessarily new news, but I think it's put a spotlight on it. With Kadence, we've done our own research recently at the sort of beginning of the year, and we found that 78% of people across Asia have increased efforts on their own health and their own well-being. They're changing their diets. They are a lot more aware and conscious about where the food comes from. And they're a lot more conscious about what they can actively do in a day-to-day setting. And I think being at home, working from home, it puts a greater emphasis on needing to stand up, needing to get out, needing to do something different in order to make sure that you can keep your body going. And I think kind of the pandemic really has shifted that and emphasized the importance.
Yeah, tell us a bit more. What are the other big shifts to watch in this space?
I think kind of some of it's by market. I think that certain markets, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, have probably shifted even more so. I think countries like Singapore, there's always been a sense of kind of group exercise and kind of a lot of runs are held in Singapore. It's more of a kind of a social activity as much as anything else. But those markets I just mentioned, perhaps weather-wise, perhaps kind of ability to get out into the streets and do things, finding that space is much harder. And so what it's done is it's focused a lot more on the digital side of things, how technology is now allowing people to do more at home. And so it's more of a social connection, more of a digital connection, and creating a social community that is facilitating the, I guess, kind of the competitiveness, the sort of the sharing, the mindfulness about kind of people's fitness.
Yeah, great. And that's a very sort of spot on differences that you mentioned about, different countries. And I would say that these changes are certainly driving exciting trends in this industry. In your opinion, what are the top three trends that businesses in Southeast Asia need to watch out for? And more importantly, how can business respond to them and seize the opportunities?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'll sort of try and touch upon some of those different categories that we talked about before, and maybe food and beverage being one, and kind of the sort of ingredients. I think what we're seeing is that there is a greater awareness about where my food is coming from. So we have kind of the provenance, sort of the location where it's grown and how it gets to my plate. And certain markets will do quite well out of this pandemic, if you can say that. Somewhere like New Zealand, who the government has been seen to deal with the pandemic well. Food safety is an element that they can really benefit from. You think of New Zealand, you think of the rolling hills, you think of the sort of the valleys and the beautiful scenery, and therefore any ingredients coming from New Zealand, there's a lot of confidence there. On sort of more of a localized level, there are companies that are taking advantage of that. There's a company here in Singapore called Sustainair, who grow kale and other kind of like vegetables in vertical urban gardens. And they're expanding quite well into Malaysia and Hong Kong because they're able to kind of to show very clearly fresh food and produce grown very close, low air miles, and kind of you can really manage that supply chain. So kind of where the food is coming from, I think, is a key thing. And the second thing is in workplaces and thinking about kind of like mental well-being. But we've done a study recently with Bloomberg actually that looks to ensure that kind of 66%, just checking my notes, 66% of companies are engaging external vendors to help with and provide advice on kind of healthcare and well-being at the beginning of this year, up from 55% at the back of last year. So even though maybe the sort of the bulk of the pandemic has been dealt with, it's an ongoing, everlasting issue, and workplaces are really taking advantage of that. And probably then the third thing is the use of technology. Me as an individual, I can have more control over what I'm doing. I can track my own habits a lot more, and I can see very clearly kind of what I'm eating and what I'm doing, and it reminds me to go and to manage my own health. It's kind of health on my terms, which is something that perhaps has never been as accessible as it is today.
Yeah, with all these exciting trends that are coming into this industry is also growing very rapidly. And with that rapid growth also comes competition. So there is definitely that need for business to stand out from the crowded marketplace in this industry. So let's talk about strategies to stand out from the crowd. What would be your advices to the business on this?
Well, I might be slightly biased, but I would say market research is a key part of being able to ensure that you know what's going on. I think being aware of consumer trends, not just in your own industry, but right across other industries, spotting the fact that wearable technology is increasing so much more. What can I do as a brand owner? How can I utilize that technology? How can I utilize the ability to influence individuals on a kind of a very personal, hyper-personalized point of view? I think the other thing is ensuring that there is a strong innovation pipeline. I think we work with some food and beverage companies who are looking at not just now, but they're looking at 2, 3, 4 years down the line, being able to utilize their products to stay relevant in the market and make sure that they're able to produce the types of food and beverages that will stay attractive and appealing to the consumers as they constantly shift their behaviors and constantly shift their mindsets about what's important right now.
Excellent sharing, Philip. You share about the key trends in health and wellness industry, and even more interesting and important, how businesses can seize these substantial opportunities to generate competitive edge. And that actually brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you very much, Philip.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
This is Lazada Insider. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you click follow and subscribe so you don't miss our latest insights and expert interviews. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Lazada.